oxygen is not the most abundant gas in the atmosphere, it is by far the most critical. No living being can live without it. Hyperventilation is the first symptom of low oxygen. Breathing becomes quicker in an effort to bring more oxygen into your lungs. This can result in dizziness, fatigue, and fainting. At higher altitudes, more serious problems such as vomiting and headaches, as well as pulmonary edema and brain injury can occur. But have you ever considered what would happen if the entire world's oxygen supply was cut off for just 5 seconds? You might think that holding your breath for 5 seconds isn't a huge deal. I mean, come on, it's just 5 seconds after all. In reality, however, if the whole world was deprived of it for even a split second, the results would be catastrophic. Let us take a look at some of the changes that would occur in the absence of oxygen. But before we continue, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Number 1. The Earth's crust would shatter. Oxygen is contained mainly in the atmosphere. However, what we don't know is that 45% of the Earth's crust and mantle also contains oxygen. If the Earth's crust runs out of oxygen, it will no longer be able to support massive structures, let alone small structures. It will cause anything and everything on Earth to fall to the ground in a matter of seconds. Number 2. Engines with internal combustion will cease to function. Since there isn't enough oxygen for the combustion process to take place, all cars running on any kind of fuel that relies on internal combustion engines, except electric cars, must simply stop. Otherwise, planes, helicopters, and even space shuttles would plummet from the sky. Number 3. Anyone sunbathing at the beach will be severely sunburned. The ozone layer is a gaseous layer that blocks the majority of UV light from reaching the troposphere. Since it is completely made up of oxygen molecules, a blanket of protection would be removed. Therefore, it would feel as though you've just got yourself stuck in a giant toaster. UV light has also been linked to skin cancer, but that would be the least of your worries if you were ever in a situation like this. Number 4. It will cause everyone's inner ear to burst. In the absence of oxygen, we would lose about 21% of our air pressure in an instant, which is equivalent to leaping from sea level to nearly 2,000 meters in a matter of seconds. Your eardrums will not become acclimated to the pressure changes as a result of this. This condition is known as barotrauma, which refers to any injury sustained from failure to equalize the pressure of an air-containing space with that of the surrounding environment. This only occurs when there is a drastic change in pressure, which can severely damage the inner ear, resulting in severe hearing loss. On a much smaller scale, this may happen to most of us. For example, when we feel as though our ears have become clogged while deep-sea diving. Number 5. The sky would darken throughout the day. Multiple reflections occur as light bounces off particles in the air such as dust, oxygen molecules, and other impurities present, allowing light from the sun to penetrate the Earth's surface. Since there would be fewer particles for light to bounce off of in the absence of oxygen, the sky would look dim and almost black. Number 6. Any concrete structure will collapse. When making concrete blocks, oxygen acts as a binder, and without it, the compounds lose their rigidity. Therefore, no more high-rise buildings as such for the foreseeable future. Number 7. The oceans and other bodies of water will begin to evaporate into space. Water is made up of 2 components, with 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen. In the absence of oxygen, water molecules would contain an abundance of free hydrogen gas, and as a result, hydrogen gas would rise to the upper troposphere and eventually evaporate into space. Without our precious oxygen, the Earth will become a place full of deserts within a short time frame. Number 8. If 2 pieces of untreated metal came into contact, they would immediately fuse together. Metals are covered in an oxidation film, which prevents them from welding on contact. Metal welds in a vacuum without the need for an intermediate liquid step. Cold welding is based on this theory. Small metallic objects are welded together directly in this process, with no melting of the interface between the two objects. These metals are put in a vacuum to assist in the fusing of the metals together due to the lack of oxygen. We all know how vital oxygen is for survival, but even losing it for 5 seconds can be deadly, if not lethal. With our beloved oxygen nowhere to be found, almost everyone will suffer greatly and painfully. However, hypothetically speaking, there are a few exceptions. Single-celled bacteria and protists, at least a few of them, consider oxygen to be toxic. These bacteria have been related to fatal diseases. The silver lining is that if you survive the free falls, sunburns, eardrum explosions, and falling buildings around you, these bacteria will go through billions of mutations and may even become oxygen resistant. They will not be extinguished even when the oxygen returns. So, what happens if oxygen chooses to return to Earth? Of course, assuming you've made it this far. A terrifying explosion will result from the immediate oxidation of the seas, lakes, and all other water bodies. The Earth would become very cold, and humanity would perish as a result of such drastic changes. Even a 5-second loss of oxygen can pose serious risks to our world and its inhabitants. Thus, we must value our environment and work to plant more trees so that future generations can have more oxygen.